Hello and welcome to the FA Women's National League show, the weekly show where I look at everything that has been happening in the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. I'm here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. bringing you the very latest, not only of what we're looking back on over the past week, but also what we can look forward to in the week to come. And my word, have we got what could be a very special weekend in store for us this weekend. My name is Chris Gadsby. This is now episode 24 of the FAWNL show. And we're going to start, as we do now, with the news. A few pieces of news to talk about this week. Firstly, I mentioned last week the league was advertising for a volunteer secretary. That has now been extended. So if you're interested in becoming General Secretary for the FA Women's National League, all the information is on their Twitter page, and there's more about the job role on the FA website as well. Looking ahead to this weekend, the FA Cup, Bridgwater United have announced that they have now sold out of tickets ahead of their clash against Manchester United. 2,500 tickets have been sold for that clash, so that should be a terrific afternoon down at Bridgwater. Well done to everybody involved, and if you are going to that, let us know, and hopefully you'll have a fantastic afternoon. And then finally, in the Southern Premier Division, Portsmouth, you'll notice this later on when we talk about the Southern Premier Division, but Portsmouth, who were deducted 3 points, have had those points given back to them. So they have climbed a couple of places in the table. We asked the league for details on why the points were given back, but apparently it's confidential. All they have told us is that new evidence came to light, which meant that Portsmouth didn't break any rules, so the points were given back to them. So that is kind of an overview of the news. So let's get straight down to the results. We had a few midweek fixtures, but predominantly it was the weekend. We had one in the plate as well. Yeah, so we'll start with the Northern Premier Division results. Brighouse Town 5, Hull City 0, Huddersfield Town 2, Middlesbrough 0, Sheffield 1, Loughborough Lightning 1, Stoke City 0, Nottingham Forest 1, and Wolverhampton Wanderers 3, Derby County 2. We will start then at the top there. Brighouse Town against Hull City. A hat-trick for Leah Jade Embley for Brighouse Town, with other goals from Cara Fields and Darcy Green, giving Brighouse a convincing 5-0 victory over Hull. Huddersfield Town, 2 second-half goals. Laura Elford in the 66th minute and Rhea Montgomery in the 75th minute, lifting Huddersfield over Middlesbrough. Good win for them. A draw between Sheffield FC and Loughborough Lightning. Loughborough Lightning's goal coming from Nicola Russell in the 24th minute. Sheffield haven't announced their lineup yet. Just the lone goal in Stoke. Nottingham Forest, 53rd minute goal for Rachel Brown, giving Andy Cook's side the 3 points. And finally, Wolverhampton Wanderers 3, Derby County 2. Started off so well for Derby, going in front just 40 seconds in. Amelia Wilson opening the scoring for them. Wolves pulled it back. Amber Hughes just before the quarter-hour mark made it 1-1. Wolves then took the lead. Tammy George, 32nd minute. Anna Morfitt in the 49th minute gave them a 3-1 lead. Sherry McHugh, 68th minute, pulling a goal back for Derby. But Wolves hold on to win by 3 goals to 2. What that means for the table is things close up a little bit. AFC Fylde still at the top, having not played this weekend. Derby County have now lost their game in hand over Fylde, and they remain in second place on goal difference. Huddersfield, Wolves and Forest all up a place after their wins. Burnley dropped down 3 places, having not played. Brighouse Town, with their victory over Hull, swapped places with West Bromwich Albion, and it's all the same at the bottom. But if you notice there between those sides, AFC Fylde 8 points separate Fylde in first from Burnley in 6th. So it is very close. Wolves, of course, still have those 3 games in hand. They could pull themselves up to 32 points when they play those games in hand, but everything has tightened up. And of course, don't forget that with a 24 game season, there is still chance for all of those sides to make moves, and they've all got to play each other as well. So there is still going to be plenty of movement between now and the end of the season in the Northern Premier Division. Let us move then to the Southern results. We've got a lot to get through today, so I'm going to race through these relatively quickly. Bridgewater United 2, Milton Keynes Dons 0, Crawley Wasps 1, London Bees 2, Hounslow 0, Gillingham 3, Keynsham Town 2, Ipswich Town 5, Oxford United 3, Chichester and Chelsea 0, and Plymouth Argyle 2, Cardiff City 1. Bridgewater United then going into that big FA Cup game with a victory 2-0 over MK Dons. 71st and 80th minute for substitute Chloe Gilroy after coming on just after half time. Crawley Wasps 1, London Bees 2. 3 points for London Bees. Goal coming to Joe Wilson in the 24th minute, and then Courtney Ward-Chambers 27th minute from the penalty spot. Ellie Russell getting the lone goal for Crawley Wasps. Hounslow, another loss, this time at the hands of Gillingham. 34th minute to Vicky Ashton-Jones, 38th minute Amy Russ, and 55th minute Mary Elizabeth Bashford, giving Gillingham the 3-0 away victory. Ipswich Town continue their good run of form. A 5-2 victory away at Keynsham Town. 3-0 up at half-time. A hat-trick for Lucy O'Brien, Paige Peake and Anna Gray also getting goals for Ipswich. Keynsham Town haven't yet announced any of their goal scorers. A 3-0 home victory for Oxford over Chichester and Chelsea. Sarah King on the 36th minute, Carly Johns on the 42nd, and Beth Lumsden in the 77th minute, giving Oxford United the 3-0 victory. And then Plymouth Argyle with yet another victory coming thick and fast for Plymouth at the moment. 2-1 over Cardiff City. A big 6-point towards the relegation zone there. 2 late goals. Cardiff had taken the lead in that one, but Kaylee Lane on the 86th minute and Mary Ward in the 4th minute of added time completed the turnaround for Plymouth, made it 2-1 and gave them, as I said, yet another 3 points. What that means for the table then is there's not a lot of movement. They're in the middle of the table. Portsmouth, having had those 3 points given back to them that were taken off in the middle of December, as I spoke about at the top of the show, have climbed up a place, as have London Bees after their victory. Crawley Wasps, losing to the London Bees, have fallen a couple of places. Towards the bottom, Plymouth Argyle now, with another victory, have pulled themselves to level on points with Cardiff City. Cardiff City has deducted 1 point for failing to fulfil a fixture when COVID was in their camp. They are now only out of the relegation zone on goal difference, and Plymouth have a game in hand on them as well, so we could see Cardiff City slip into the bottom 4. Towards the top, victories at Ipswich and Oxford mean that they remain where they are. Southampton now have 4 games in hand on Ipswich, but the pressure is on them to win them all to go clear at the top of the Southern Premier Division. Let's move through then into the Division 1 North. Barnsley 0, Durham Cestra 3, Bradford City 1, Newcastle United 6, Stockport County 1, Norton and Stockton Ancients 2. We'll start with that Barnsley Durham Cestra game. An early opening goal for Jordan Atkinson, 2nd minute for Durham Cestra, giving them the 1-0 lead. Then followed that up with her second of the game on 20 minutes before Amy Hargrave, just before the hour mark, made it 3-0 to Durham. Newcastle enjoyed another strong outing in front of goal, but they haven't put any details up of their goal scorers. Bradford City having captain Katie Walcott going in the sin bin at a point throughout that game as well. And there's no information about the 1 goal for Bradford City either. So we'll move straight on to Stockport County against Norton Stockton Ancients. No information about Stockport County, but Norton Stockton Ancients 2 goals either side of half-time. Sasha Millward, 41st minute and 78th minute, giving them the 3 points. What that means in the North table is that Newcastle United, for the first time in something like 80 days, have knocked Liverpool Feds off the top of the table. Liverpool Feds do have a game in hand, of course, but Newcastle United, they're 1 point clear and almost 20 goals ahead of Liverpool Feds. Midpoint in there as well, Chorley against Stockport County. Stockport County's defeat means that their goal difference now drops them below Chorley in the Division 1 North. Let's have a look then at the Division 1 Midlands. More to talk about in here. Bideford United 1, Sporting Council 2, Burton Albion 2, Leafield Athletic 1, Lincoln City 1, Boldmere St Michael's 2, Long Eaton United 0, Peterborough United 1, Wem Town and Solihull Moors had a goalless draw, and Leek Town lost by 9 goals to 2 to Doncaster Rovers Bells. Let's start then. Bideford United against Sporting Cowser. Goal for Bideford coming to Millie Miller. So at some point in the game, it's not been noted when that goal was. But goals for Sporting Cowser, one in each half. Sarah Hazel, 34th minute. Olivia Woolston in the 79th minute, giving them the 2 goals that meant they got the victory. Burton Albion 2, Leafield Athletic 1, Ella Ritchie and Millie Wortley with the goals for Burton Albion. Lincoln City, another defeat. Boldmere St Michael's, 2 substitutes for them there. Lois Jeffries and Chloe Bickley giving Boldmere St Michael's the victory. Tony McHamilton, 62nd minute with Lincoln's only goal. A lone goal at Peterborough, giving them the victory over Long Eaton United, but there's no details about that game. Wem Town Solihull Moors obviously having a 0-0 draw. And then the big one, which was Doncaster Rovers Bells 9 away at Leek Town 2. Goals for Leek Town coming to Katie Meyer in the 31st minute and Naomi Sale Hancock in the 72nd minute. Goals for Doncaster Rovers Bells, no times on these goals, but Sophie Bell with 1, Jessica Price with 1, Lindsay Tugby, Lauren Breen and Nadia Khan all with 1, Jasmine Saxton with 4 goals, and she got substituted off in the 71st minute, so 4 goals in 70 minutes for Jasmine Saxton, giving Doncaster Rovers Bells a very convincing victory over Leek Town. What that means for the table is, well, great news for Doncaster Rovers Bells as goal difference. They're now up to 20 and they are 8 points clear with Long Eaton United and Lincoln City both losing. A perfect weekend for Doncaster Rovers. Now find themselves 8 points clear of Long Eaton United, who are in second. They are 9 points clear of Boldmere St Michael's. Boldmere St Michael's have 3 games in hand, so they could pull level with Doncaster Rovers Bells, but Doncaster do have a bit of breathing space at the moment. Lincoln City now down to 4th. They're still only 1 point behind Boldmere St Michael's. I mean, they could pull themselves within 1 point of the top with the games in hand, theoretically. Leek Town, they're remaining in the middle after that heavy defeat. At the bottom, Burton Albion beating Leafield Athletic. They now leapfrog them, and they are within touching distance of safety in the Division 1 Midlands. Let's go through then to Division 1 South East. We've got plenty to talk about here. As we had midweek games as well as the games at the weekend. So Cambridge City 0, Stevenage 0, #United 2, Billericay Town 1 in the battle of the top, London Seaward 0, AFC Wimbledon 2, and Queen's Park Rangers 2, Actonians 1. We'll start with #United against Billericay Town, as there was no goals between Cambridge City and Stevenage. #United coming out the winners, Malika Apinda-Gill and Catherine Nutman getting 2 goals for #United. Logan Marie O'Shea getting the goal for Billericay Town. But #United advantage to after Wednesday's fixture. London Seaward losing to AFC Wimbledon by 2 goals to 0, but Wimbledon haven't put information on the website yet. And Queen's Park Rangers 2, Actonians 1. Goals for the goal for Actonians coming to Ashley Ward. The goals for Queen's Park Rangers coming to Melanie Hall in the 50th minute and Katie Ackerman in the 75th minute. We then move to the weekend. Actonians 6, Norwich City 0, Cambridge United 0, Queen's Park Rangers 4, #United 1, AFC Wimbledon 2, Kent Football United 0, Harlow Town 1, London Seaward 0, Billericay Town 2, Stevenage 0, Enfield Town 4. Actonians 6, Norwich City 0 then. A hat-trick for Maria Ledsma-Viso, 62nd, 71st and 89th minute. A brace for Sharon Odothin coming off the bench on the hour mark, immediately making an impact, 61st and 78th minute. And the scoring was opened by Patrice Pinto Corella in the 11th minute. A good away victory for Queen's Park Rangers at Cambridge United. A brace for Demi Edwards, 26th and 61st minute. Vicky Grieve had opened the scoring on the 12th minute. Melanie Hall rounded it off in the 73rd minute. Hashtag United then losing to AFC Wimbledon, but no details about that game as of yet. Nor are there details about Harlow Town winning away at Kent Football United. Billericay Town, 2 goals, Shannon Drew and Rebecca May, giving them the 2-0 victory over London Seaward. And Enfield Town, 4-0 winners away at Stevenage. A opening goal for Katie O'Leary, 25th minute. Thomas in the 59th minute, just before the hour mark, making it 2-0. Leah Littlechild, 2 goals, 4 minutes apart, 65th minute and 69th minute, making it 4-0 to Enfield Town. What that means for the table is not a great deal. So hashtag United beating Billericay Town in the week, but then losing at the weekend when Billericay Town won means that it's as you were at the top. Actonians remain in 3rd, Wimbledon remain in 4th. Queen's Park Rangers, though, with their double win, 6-point week for Queen's Park Rangers, has lifted them up a couple of places above London Seaward and Cambridge United at the bottom. Everything else remains the same. Let's finish off then the results with the Division 1 Southwest, well, the league results at least, with the Division 1 Southwest. On Thursday, Swindon Town 0, Cheltenham Town 1. Jade Grove in the 6th minute, providing the only goal of the game. And then Larkhall Athletic 0, Cheltenham Town 4. Jade Grove again, 69th minute though this time. After the scoring was opened by Amy Woven, 39th minute, Lacey J. Liggett, 63rd minute, then Jade Grove with her 69th minute goal, and Emily Owen in the 75th minute made it a 5-goal week for Cheltenham Town and no goals conceded. We will be speaking actually to Cheltenham Town manager Tom Davies in our guest interview this week. That's coming up shortly once we've finished all of the results from the past week. No change at all in the Division 1 Southwest because Larkhall Athletic and Swindon Town both lost to Cheltenham. Cheltenham have got 6 points. They've now pulled themselves 8 points clear at the top of the table. 3 games clear of Bournemouth as well. Bournemouth with 3 games at hand, they're 8 points behind. But as Tom says, and you'll hear later on, it's now entirely within Cheltenham's hands because they've got to beat Bournemouth. So they've got to play Bournemouth again. So if they win that game, if they win their remaining 6 games, they're up no matter what Bournemouth can do. And that is their focus. So that is all of the league fixtures. And the reason we're going to have a look at the cup, just the plate for the moment, is because we had finally the game between Alnwick Town and Leeds United. Alnwick Town, who haven't won in the league at all yet this season, continuing a good run of form in the cup. They beat Leeds United, who of course are in their division, by 2-0. Those goals coming if the screen will load up for me. Those goals coming to Michelle Stewart in the 23rd minute and Lucy McConnell in the 57th minute. It means if we look at the draw, that Alnwick Town have got the home tie against Nottingham Forest, Leafield Athletic against Sporting Cowser, Cheltenham Town against Exeter City and Portsmouth against AFC Wimbledon. Now, if you may remember, I looked at the draws and the geographical locations before when this draw came out before Christmas. This result now means that in the plate, Nottingham Forest have a 376-mile round trip to face Alnwick Town. Sporting Cowser have a 66-mile trip. Wimbledon to Portsmouth is a 115-mile round trip. And Exeter to Cheltenham a 214-mile round trip, but that was still the closest available. So Forest have got a 160-mile trip further than anybody else in the plate. The cup, it's a similar story. Some fixtures are only 10 miles apart, which is great for those sides. A nice derby in that one. But that is all of the results from the previous week. So what we're going to do now is speak to our guest for this week, Tom Davies, the manager of Cheltenham Town. Had a great chat with him last night, talking about all things Cheltenham and women's football and It was rather amusing that all the kit from Cheltenham had just come out of his washing machine before we spoke as well. So a very hands-on manager, had some great things to say, some great opinions as well. So I hope you enjoy my chat here with Cheltenham Town manager Tom Davies. We started by looking back on what was a 6-point week for his side.
Yeah, pleasing wins as well in terms of where we're at in our sort of training schedule, what we've set in terms of our aims for the players over the last couple of weeks since we've returned post that Christmas break. So yeah, in terms of the way that we try to play, in terms of the results, the clean sheets, everything's kind of been a real positive so far. So yeah, a good week.
Yeah, the fact that both away games as well must make it even sweeter.
A little bit, yeah. It's always nice going to someone else's ground and kind of going there and sort of taking 3 points with you. I think, our away form's been pretty decent. So it's not kind of a huge surprise that's been the case. We've been quite good on the road. I think that's just because, we're just settling in. Everything sort of stays the same, whether we're at home or away. So yeah, it's always nice, from our perspective, to go to somebody else's place and take 3 points. But for us, it's just another game, whether it's home, away, on grass, on 3G, whatever, it's just another game of football, and we'll approach it in the same way.
Yeah, and you've pulled further away at the top of the table. 8 points clear now of Bournemouth in second, but those 2 games in the week where you were essentially almost the only side to play, they've now got 3 games in hand on you, but presumably from your point of view, you'd much rather have those points already on the board than the games in hand where they've now got to go into those games knowing that they've got to win all 3 of them.
Yeah, I think the sides that are in and around us probably feel that way anyway. We approach every game feeling that we kind of have to go and win every game that we've got left. And I expect that, Exeter and Bournemouth and Southampton and every other team that want to or have those aspirations to be in and around that sort of top spot are going to feel that way. So I don't think the pressure probably changes. I think the only positive from our perspective is, like I said, after the game on Sunday, we can only win the games that are in front of us. So as long as we keep doing our business correctly, as long as we keep winning our games, then, whether teams play or don't play, whether they win or they don't win, it shouldn't really matter. Like, we're just focusing on us. So it's always nice to be ahead. But ultimately, like I said, until the end of the season and everyone plays everyone, then, you're not really going to find out, who's really at the top. So, we just take it. Like I said, we're playing the games in front of us. We've had 2 games this week. We've got 6 points, and that's all we could ask for. So that's all we're bothered about, really.
I says it's one of the things with the women's game. You look at Exeter, have only played 7 league games. You've played 12. You've only got 6 league games left in comparison to somebody like Exeter who have got 11. So your schedule is not more disrupted, so to speak, but theirs is a lot heavier. They can string a few good results together, whereas you've got longer between each game to look at training and just change things if they need changing.
Yeah, 100%. I think, obviously, with Exeter, I think their cup run has obviously been part of that schedule, and that, obviously they're going to be delighted by that cup run, and every team would want one of those as well. And they've had a few games called up here and there, which hasn't helped, but ultimately, like I said, they've got that in front of them. Like, they can either put that run of games together where they're kind of, playing every single game, week to week or midweek games as well, and going on that run. Or it might work in our favour where, teams get a little bit more tired if they're playing every single week. Again, it might disrupt us more, having a game every 2 weeks, it might take us out of that flow of things. So you could make kind of excuses for both sides having an advantage or disadvantage. And like I said, we just focus on us. We focus on what's in front of us. We'll focus on the next game, which is fortunately next week.
Yeah.
In front of us, and we've got a few cup games as well, and we've got to play Exeter, we've got to play our county cup games as well, and we're hoping to progress in those cups. But like I said, we just focus on what's in front of us, and if that's a game, then brilliant. If that's an extra training session, then we take both as positives.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about yourself then. What's your route been in football and football management to get you to this point?
Kind of a bit of a zigzag of different areas. Places. So I've worked in kind of grassroots football, so in boys grassroots football for a little bit, worked in there for a number of years, moved my way up into floodlit football, which is like under 18s football at Alf Church, spent a lot of time at Alf Church, and then kind of worked in and around men's football with Alf Church and Highgate, just kind of supporting, really not in any sort of managerial roles, just sort of supporting and coaching and working my way through those. And then from there, I've worked in men's football at Feckenham for a number of years. So I was an assistant manager there, or a head coach, depending on kind of what your termination is these days. And then moved across to women's football and to university football at the same time. So took up roles at Wolves Women and at Stoke Women at the same time as managing the university men's football program, or the football first team, under the guidance of a director of football. And then moved across to Cheltenham. And then kind of have just been here ever since, really. So yeah, there's experiences kind of across different variations, and I've always wanted to, experience loads of different varieties of football, and it's the same game, it's played slightly differently in different areas, but just taking opportunities when I feel like they're the right ones, as opposed to having a sort of direct map to A or B.
But what have you found have been like the similarities and differences between the women's game at the clubs you've been at and the men's game, the university game? Because there are quite a few differences between all three of them.
I think there's just differences between clubs and sides and cultures anyway. We look at the culture change between sort of Stoke and Cheltenham is huge, because if you look at the locational differences, there's different cultures up there than there is kind of in the more southern region anyway. And there's different cultures in the Midlands leagues, across men and women's. So there's always different cultural things. There's different things that go on there. It's just being adaptable to those things. For instance, when, how and when you sort of name the team, the conversations you might have before or after, the conversations that you have during, and it's just about people. Like fundamentally, the game's played by people. So we just kind of respect individual people. There's not really too much different, in my opinion, in terms of where things are at. I think obviously with the level that we're at Cheltenham, and the level that, Stoke and Wolves and those sides that I've been at, they're obviously a little bit more professional in the way that they adapt themselves. But I like to think that the clubs that I've been at have been, as professional as they can be. And it's why I've enjoyed the experiences and why they've gone on to be generally sort of successful clubs as well. So I don't think there's loads. I think it's just about different people. You just find a niche for whatever works at that club at that time, and just roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, you beat Wolves on penalties earlier on. Sorry, not Wolves, West Bromwich Albion on penalties earlier on this season. So you've shown, said obviously the aim, I'm assuming, must be to win the league and to go into the third tier. And you've shown that you can compete against these teams this season.
Yeah, that's what we aim to do. It's not our sort of be all and end all. Obviously it would be disappointing from our perspective that if we don't achieve that. However, we understand and we're appreciative of the fact that we've got some fantastic sides in the Southwest, and we're not the only team to have beaten a tier 3. Southampton Women's, like I've mentioned, have done that. Exeter have done that. Yep. Bournemouth have done that. So every side in this division, and we've played against them all so far, and they're all fantastic sides, and they've all got their own quality. So if we don't win it and one of those teams does, then obviously we'll respect the fact that they've gone and achieved it. But yeah, that's our aspiration. Our aspiration is to keep improving, is to make memories as a group, and to enjoy what we do and experience what we do, and to try and make as much history as possible. And so far we've started to do that. We've hit some sort of records, and we've hit different things along the way, some things that we aimed for and some things that have come by kind of pure accident. And we just celebrate them when they come and share them across the group, both from a player point of view and from a staffing point of view as well.
Because that is the very nature of the FA Women's National League and Division 1 Southwest as well, is that there are so many good teams in it. We can see it across the tier 4, and only one side goes up. There's so many teams vying for that one spot. It's such a tough league.
Absolutely. And if you look at the way that the league structure is going to be next year, you've got 4 teams coming down. So you're going to have 2 tier 3 sides coming in. And you look at those tier 3 sides, they're strong sides, and you're going to have teams coming up as well. And the teams that are kind of in and around that, like the Moneyfields of the world, they're competing against strong sides and getting good results. So that division is only going to get a lot harder, and you're going to have to be on your game kind of every single game. There's going to be no sort of games off as it potentially has been over the last couple of seasons, with certain teams dropping off or fading away. Everybody's going to be vying for those spots. And next season, you're going to find that there's going to be some very, very good sides that are going to be in 6th and 7th and 8th. Not that there aren't now, but, sides that really, feel that they can compete and that sort of thing. And it's only going to get stronger. It's only going to get harder. And that's a positive. It's a positive from a from a club point of view, it's promising from a country point of view that we're developing our leagues, but it's also, like I said, a little bit disappointing that only one side can go up after, the hard work that we've put in and so many of the sides. And that's across kind of all tier 4 teams as well, not just the Southwest.
Yeah, I mean, said that the leagues are growing and getting better all the time. But then the flip side of that, we have seen teams that are unfortunately having to fold, Buckland Athletic being one, and Coventry United, who have been saved now, but that would have had ramifications all the way through the pyramid. There's still a lot in terms of the state of the women's game at the moment. There's still a lot more that can be done.
Yeah, of course there is. And those conversations are always ongoing between, sort of league officials and clubs and secretaries and that sort of stuff. And, obviously from my perspective, it's just kind of, it's a lot of noise. We just focus, like I said, on what we've got to do, because if we focus on all those things and we are unhappy about these things happening, there's been a lot of noise, obviously, with COVID stuff and teams getting promoted, and rightly so. Teams deserve to go up after those kind of couple of seasons or those kind of things that were happening. Now that's kind of been settled, and now we're able to play the games, and teams are going to go up, purely on just being able to finish season, which is fantastic from everybody. We've just got to focus on us and hope and trust that the people that have been, given the positions in the league and the club secretaries and chairpersons, that, they come to the right decisions in terms of how we're going to sort of push the league and promote the leagues and make sure that teams get, the fair crack of the whip when they're in good form and when they have good seasons, that they're able to go and get promoted and able to go and compete at the levels they should be.
Yeah, and like I say, you've touched on it now. So you try and focus and get your team focused very much on the 90 minutes within the white lines. But and there is a lot of noise, as you've said. But what more would you like the people who are making those decisions to do to help to grow the game? Is it a case of better kind of social media, trying to make people more aware of the league, or just kind of trying to just ticking things over and just steadily growing it?
Yeah, I think that's the way. There's no sort of fad promotion that's going to get everybody turning up to fixtures or loads of money being invested. And I think it's just trying to get as many people in the right positions, in the right jobs, to help promote and give people that support. From a club that we are at the moment, we've got a small kind of group of people in terms of, that are above kind of my station, that work really hard to get the things done that we have to get to. But without those people, similarly, to sides that you've mentioned, things could fall apart, and those people are fundamental to what we're doing. And we're not the only side that's like that. There's individual backers, or there's individual people that are literally keeping clubs together, and there's only so long that can happen. So it's just the support that needs to happen across the board for most sides and most clubs, so that the league can help make sure that everybody that's kind of in these tiers, everybody that's trying to get into them and trying to promote themselves above these tiers in the championship, are sustainable, that are and that's across football. That's not even women's football, that's across football. Everything sustainable. And we're watching clubs, men's football, academy sides, women's football, RTCs and things like that are being removed because financially things can't be done. So it's just providing that support. It's giving people that ability to do what they do, and then allowing us to kind of do what we do, which is, like I said, what we focus on.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, everything comes down to money, as it always does. I mean, we've seen with Clapton and their terrific FA Cup run having to crowdfund to be able to get fans all the way across from one side of the south of the country to the other. So it does kind of always come back to money, and it's got to come from somewhere, which ultimately has got to be the FA, really.
Yeah, to a degree. And I think also, it's one thing kind of asking for money, and I'm a big advocate for, the FA Cup prize money, even just being kind of more equally shared just across the women's game, not even necessarily touching on the advertising and getting into that kind of debacle with different things going on and people having loads of different opinions, because we'll be here till kind of day dot until people. But just in terms of the women's game, there's a lot of money at the top that isn't necessarily needed as much, and women being so much more. But equally, on top of that, that money can come in and that money can be used. But equally, it's about the clubs using it correctly and having the knowledge of where to use it and how to use it. And that support needs to come from the league and go, actually, this is the most important thing that we need you to be looking at. And when you're running this club, this is what we need the money to be going towards, to make sure that you have sustainable facilities, sustainable, infrastructure to play your game, so that, money's not being spent on, fancy new training kits or whatever else, or brand new footballs, when actually, we can source them for a cheaper price and help teams be more sustainable for a longer period of time. So money's one thing, but it's how it gets spent is also really important.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go back then to the rest of the season coming up. As we've said, we've touched on it. You've got 6 league games to go, of which 4 of them are at home, the final 3 being at home as well. Your final 2 games, Bournemouth at home, Exeter at home, they could be crucial games to decide the final placings.
Yeah, they don't come much harder than that. But look, yeah, you mentioned they're at home, and we've had good away form just like we've had good home form, and so are the sides that we're talking about. I don't think they'll be too fussed whether they're home or away. And our home pitch is a fantastic home pitch at Cirencester. It's a fantastic brand new AstroTurf facility, brand new 4G. So there's no there's no bubbles on that pitch. So there's no excuses from anybody. And yeah, the 2 fantastic games against 2 fantastic sides, but to be in with a shout, and it's the conversations that we have, to be in with a shout of them games being meaningful. We've got 4 between now and then, or we've got the next one in front of us that happens. But I'm sure that, players and club officials and fans of both Exeter and Bournemouth will be looking forward to those games as much as we are.
Yeah, I can remember when we had Abby and Aaron on from Exeter. They were desperate to play some league games, and spoke to them just before Christmas. And now they're coming thick and fast for them, and it's going to be a great end to the season. I just wondered how much. You say you've got there on the 4G pitch, so it's a perfect pitch as we have up at Forest as well. And then you go to a ground where the pitch is grass and will be bobbling a bit. Presumably you have to obviously adapt to the surface, and you can play lovely crisp passing on the 4G that you might not be able to play when a bobble will send it slightly off kilter, but what's coming up, so you can adapt your game style to suit.
A little bit, we train on 3-4G anyway, so we are used to that. But I'd expect that 90%, if not everybody, trains on 3-4G anyway. So the difference is kind of not too much when they come to Cirencester. From our perspective, it's not really about sort of sticking to a specific game style. Whether the pitches are good, whether they're not. We're fortunate that throughout most of winter, we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna be at home for most of those games. The pitches that we've played on have generally been quite good anyway, because it's been in better months, and they're well looked after. So that's one case. It's about decisions for us. Like, if it's on to play, we'll play. If it's not on to play, we won't play. And players will make those decisions based on the pitch as well. If they're feeling that the pitch is bobbly and they don't want to play out from the back, then they won't. And they'll squeeze things on, and they'll do things that way, and they'll play sort of a bit more percentage football. And if it's on to play, whether it's grass or 3G, if it's on to play, then we'll do that. And that's, there's loads of different variables that come in. That pitch is one of them. How the opposition played, the formation, the press, etc., all come into it as well. But yeah, from our perspective, it's a no excuse culture. Whether we're playing grass or not, whether the goals are in the middle or to the side, it doesn't really make any difference. We'll just keep going and keep approaching every single game as individuals and keep trying to win as many games as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's, as you said, the big thing. Maidenhead United coming up this weekend, 4th place in the league, and one of these teams that have got 3 games in hand on you. Then the cup game against Exeter. Then Southampton Women, who are in 3rd. It certainly doesn't get easy before your county cup game in the middle of February. So you've got plenty of tough weeks to go. And as the season nears its conclusion, you've got fatigue and what have you coming in as well. But it must be a very pleasing and happy atmosphere in the dressing room at the moment.
Yeah, of course it is. Pressure's a privilege. The fact that these games are meaningful, the fact that there's a quarter final and a semi-final at stake, the fact that we're kind of in and around that top group, and there's pressure on each 3 points, that's because we've earned the right to be there. No one's gifted us the opportunity to be in the quarterfinal. No one's gifted us the opportunity to be where we are in the league with the amount of points that we've got. So it's a privilege for us to be there. So we enjoy the fact that there's pressure. We enjoy the fact that those games mean a little bit more. And, we've got a big squad. We've got a healthy squad at the moment. So touch wood, that sort of stays the same. But, there'll be rotations within those players, in terms of different games, different playing styles. We'll rotate to see which players we think fit that the most in terms of, formation or style. But yeah, Maidenhead are a fantastic side. That kind of ever improving. I think we caught them kind of quite early on into the new manager's reign, and you know, played them away, and we sort of got some early goals, and the game was sort of seen out from there. And you know, I watched them against Exeter, and I watched them kind of previously as well, and they're improving. You know, they're getting better results. So it's going to be a very tough game for us, and we approach it and give them the respect they deserve. And then, you know, Exeter's one of them. You know, I know that sort of Abby and Aaron and the Exeter girls will be kind of really excited to go and play us, having, you know, the games that we've had previously. You know, we've obviously beat them at their place, and you know, I think everyone will sort of say that, you know, we're probably a little bit lucky on the day, and we defended quite well, and we saw that game out kind of in a professional manner, which we needed to. And similarly with the FA Cup the year before, you know, we kind of had that 1-1 and got through on penalty. So I imagine they're going to be very excited to play us, and quite rightly so, you know, just like anybody would do. So, you know, two good sides in what will be what I expect to be a very good football match, and you know, we'll both go and enjoy it. And the positive is, you know, a team from the Southwest Div 1 is going to be in that semi-final. You know, whether that's us or Exeter, that's just another, you know, phenomenal stamp from the league point of view to go, this is how strong our league is. You know, we're still getting sides into these positions, into these environments. So, you know, it's a pleasing thing from the league perspective as well.
Yeah, soon to build on that is that if in the kind of northern section as well, two Div 1 Midland sides coming up against each other. So we'll have a Div 1 Midland side in the semi-final as well, at least. You know, and there's plenty. I mean, it could be all Division 4 in the semi-finals if Alnwick beat Forest and Wimbledon beat Portsmouth. So it just shows how it is getting stronger, and perhaps there isn't that huge jump between Tier 3 and Tier 4, as we've seen so many Tier 4 sides beating Tier 3 sides, and they're getting far in these competitions. It's that gap is narrowing all the time, which makes, again, the promotion and relegation even more challenging, because it's not so much a come down from Tier 3 but keep the players and go straight back up again, because the leagues are so competitive, and it is just going to be so good for the women's game.
Of course it is, and the sides that are, you know, in and around the top end of Tier 3 as well are getting stronger and stronger. You know, they're closing that gap on the Championship as well. So, you know, it's difficult for everybody. You know, sometimes Tier 4 teams are rotating players or resting players in these cup matches because of how difficult their league is at Tier 3, you know, and the games are so relentless. And they might rotate players and make one or two changes. And like you said, now that Tier 4 is getting a lot stronger, teams are now able to sort of take results off those teams. So, you know, we're just proud of where we're at. We're proud of what we're achieving at the moment, but we're also kind of proud from a region point of view that, you know, from the Southwest, that we're having teams, you know, make scalps and win games, and it shows how difficult our league is. But you're right, you know, there's teams in the Midland League and the Northern League that are doing some fantastic things as well, and they're not to be overlooked, you know, not just in the plate, but in the cup and in their individual sort of divisions as well. So yeah, there's some fantastic sides in Tier 4, and you know, we're just glad to be a part of it, and we're glad that that's expanding and becoming more professional, and you know, having those games that are more important rather than having kind of those one or two sort of runaway leaders kind of every single year. It's nice that there's a group of people that are going, we've got these aspirations and have all got the quality to go and do it. And it's exciting to be a part of, but obviously from a neutral perspective, it must be exciting to kind of watch and see things unfold and see the results as well. So I'll kind of enjoy it after it finishes, maybe.
Look back on the season and enjoy it.
Yeah, when it's in May and there's a bit of sun knocking about, you know, we'll all sit back and all reflect on the season. But obviously, you know, I'm probably speaking for all of the, you know, the managers and the coaches and players that are in Tier 4 now, that are looking at it and going, do you know what, we've got so much work to do between now and then if we want to be successful. So yeah, we'll enjoy it kind of when it's over, and reflect on it, you know.
Yeah, it's got to that grinding point of the season now where the games come thick and fast, and it's starting to just mean a little bit more as we get towards the final kind of third of the season for a lot of these teams. But yeah, Tom, thanks so much for your time this evening. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that Exeter Cup game with interest, because as you say, I'm sure that's going to be a fascinating game, and you know, hopefully it can be, as you said, a great game, and whichever side gets through to the semi-finals will put on a good display for Tier 4 and the Division 1 Southwest, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it'll be an exciting game, and you know, they all will in terms of towards the end of the season. You know, we're excited to, like I said, to be part of those games. We're excited that they're important. And like you said, whoever gets through, you know, in the cup games, whoever gets promoted, you know, they're going to deserve that, and fair play to whoever that is. we're just going to enjoy being us and keep doing what we're doing. But no, thank you very much.
A huge thank you to Tom for taking the time to chat to us this week. As I said, it's a very exciting end to the season coming up for Cheltenham Town and the whole of the Division 1 Southwest. What we're going to do now is have a look at the fixtures that are coming up this week. We've got some league fixtures, but of course a lot of the attention is going to be on that FA Cup fourth round. We have got some midweek fixtures as well though, so we're going to start in the north. In the Northern Premier Division, where there are some midweek fixtures to talk about. On Wednesday, Brighouse Town against Huddersfield Town, Burnley take on FAWNL, Derby County against Stoke City, West Brom against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and Sheffield against Nottingham Forest. So Brighouse Town against Huddersfield Town, that's 7th against 3rd. Brighouse Town have only played 10 games, so they are not completely out of it by any stretch of the imagination. They've got 3 games in hand. They're currently 11 points off the top of the table, so they can really put themselves in the mix with some good runs of form. Burnley against AFC Fylde. Burnley, having played more games than those sides around them, could really do the rest of the teams a favour by taking 3 points off Fylde. Derby County against Stoke, that's 2nd against 9th. If you favour Derby in that one, you would think. West Brom against Wolverhampton Wanderers, the Black Country Derby is always a great event. West Brom down in 8th at the moment. Wolves, of course, needing to get a victory there to keep themselves in that race. And then on Thursday, one game, Sheffield hosting Nottingham Forest. That's Sheffield in 12th against Nottingham Forest in 5th, who are playing on Thursday night and then on Saturday lunchtime in the FA Cup. Something like 41 hours between one game finishing and the next game starting. Nottingham Forest bringing that game forward against Man City to play it at the City Ground and avoid the clash with the men who are playing on Sunday away in Cardiff, so to hope to get a bigger crowd in. But it does mean they've got to play on Thursday night. The players have then work, of course, on Friday, and then they're playing Man City on the Saturday. But that should be a great occasion as well. We'll get on to the FA Cup later. And then at the weekend, say no game for a couple of teams who are still involved in the FA Cup. But Burnley face Derby County, again 6th against 2nd, so good chance for Burnley to take points off teams above them this week. Fylde against Wolves is going to be another really close one. Hull City against Middlesbrough, that's 13th against 10th. Loughborough Lightning take on Brighouse Town. Loughborough Lightning can lift themselves out of the bottom 3 with a victory. And Stoke City against Sheffield, 9th against 2nd. Sheffield also with the possibility of lifting themselves out of the bottom 3. But this should be a really good week for the Northern Premier Division. We've got a lot of top versus top teams and bottom versus bottom teams. So expect a bit of movement around with not all those teams able to pick up maximum points. The table when we do next week's show, which will be the first show in February, will look very different to the one that is on now. In the Southern Premier Division, we've got some midweek games as well, but only 4 of them. Ipswich against Gillingham, that's 1st against 5th on Wednesday. London Bees against Hounslow. Hounslow still looking for that first point of the season. Southampton against Chichester and Chelsea, that's 3rd against 13th. Cardiff City against Keynsham Town, the one game on Thursday. Cardiff City in 10th, Keynsham Town in 9th. Cardiff really needing to pick up some points because the teams below them are starting to look a bit dangerous. Cardiff City against Chichester and Chelsea on Sunday. That's 10th against 13th, a big 6-pointer. Crawley Wasps against Keynsham Town. That is 8th against 9th, another one down in that region. Gillingham against London Bees, 5th versus 7th. Hounslow against MK Dons, 12th against 14th. And Oxford United against Portsmouth, 2nd against 6th. So again, similar to the Northern Premier Division, lots of crucial fixtures this week in the Southern Premier Division, and expect a bit of movement towards the bottom. As some of those teams are going to have to pick up points. Whether it's 1, whether it's 3, some of those teams are going to pick up points and move about in the table. Division 1 Midlands then. Burton Albion against Boldmere St Michael's. Leek Town against Leafield Athletic. Sporting Cowser take on Doncaster Rovers Bells. And Peterborough United against Biddeford United. So Burton Albion against Boldmere St Michael's. That's 10th against 3rd. Boldmere St Michael's probably the favourites for that one, despite being away. They're going to want to keep the pressure on Doncaster Rovers. Leek Town against Leafield Athletic, 5th against 11th. Sporting Cowser against Doncaster Rovers Bells, that's 6th, hosting the league leaders. And Peterborough against Biddeford United is 7th against 12th. Biddeford United, just with that one win so far this season, they're 8 points away from safety and need to start getting some points relatively quickly. They've only got 10 games to go and they've got 8 points to make up. Into the Division 1 North, Alnwick Town against Norton Stockton Ancients. That's the bottom of the table. Alnwick Town coming up against 5th place Norton Stockton Ancients. Drumcester against Bradford City, 4th versus 10th. FC United of Manchester take on Chester Le Street Town, 8th against 11th. Chester Street Town again looking to close that gap to safety. Leeds United against Chorley, that's 3rd against 6th. And Liverpool Fed, 2nd place, coming up against Stockport County, who are in 7th. So this is essentially Liverpool Fed's game in hand over Newcastle United. A point is not going to be enough to see them go back top. They're going to have to beat Stockport County to go back to the top of the table. Division 1 South East, AFC Wimbledon against Cambridge City, Enfield Town take on Norwich City, Harlow Town against Queen's Park Rangers, and Kent Football United against #United. AFC Wimbledon then against Cambridge City, that's 4th versus 8th. Enfield Town taking on Norwich City, that's 9th versus 11th. Enfield Town, they're only out of the bottom 4 on goal difference at the moment. They're going to want to increase that gap. Harlow Town against Queen's Park Rangers, 10th against 5th. Harlow Town will be looking to take points there and maybe climb themselves out of the bottom 4. And Kent Football United, the bottom side in the division, against #United at the top. You've got to favour #United. I know particularly fans of Billericay Town who aren't playing in the league this weekend. They've got the FA Cup, as we're going to talk about in a moment. We'll be hoping that Kent Football United can do them a favour and get themselves past #United and give Billericay Town just a slight advantage in the league race as we get towards the end of that one as well. Finally then, in terms of the leagues, let's look at the Division 1 South West. One game in the week, Maidenhead United against Chesham United. That's 4th against 7th. And then at the weekend, Bournemouth against Larkhall Athletic. Cheltenham Town take on Maidenhead United. Chesham United against Portishead. And Southampton Women against Swindon Town. So Maidenhead against Chesham, that's 4th versus 7th. Both of them can move. It's very tight in the midfield there. Bournemouth against Larkhall Athletic, that's 2nd against 9th. Bournemouth, again, looking to close the gap as best they can on Cheltenham Town. Cheltenham themselves are playing Maidenhead United, who are in 4th. That's not going to be an easy fixture. Chesham United against Portishead, 7th against 5th in a mid-table clash. And Southampton Women in 3rd, taking on Swindon Town in 8th. And that will do it for league fixtures this weekend and of course in midweek as well. Now let's look at the weekend and what everybody is going to be excited about, the 4th round of the Women's FA Cup. So we looked at this when the draw was made and looked at it again when the 3rd round was completed because there were some postponements. So Southampton against Bristol City, Newcastle United against Ipswich Town. That's going to be a guaranteed FA Women's National League side in the 5th round. Plymouth Argyle hosting Charlton Athletic. Liverpool against Lincoln City. Brighton Hove Albion against Reading in an all-Super League tie. On Saturday, Nottingham Forest of the 3rd tier taking on Manchester City. Also on Saturday, an all-WSL tie of Villa against Chelsea. Billericay Town there, 4th tier Billericay Town against Coventry United of the 2nd tier. And then on the second page, Durham against Blackburn Rovers in an all-championship tie. West Bromwich Albion against Exeter City in an all-National League tie. Sheffield United against West Ham United. Birmingham City against Sunderland. Bridgewater United, as we spoke about at the top of the show, hosting Manchester United. Huddersfield Town of the Premier Division against Everton of the Super League. Tottenham against Leicester City in an all-Super League tie. And Arsenal against London City Lionesses. So 32 teams remaining. What's great is that we are guaranteed to have 1, 2... National League sides in the 5th round, either Newcastle or Ipswich or West Brom or Exeter. And, hopefully we might be able to get just a couple of scalps in there as well. As I've said before, I'm going to keep covering the FA Cup as long as there is a National League side left in it. So we're definitely going to do the 5th round. And maybe, just maybe, we might do the quarterfinals as well. How brilliant would that be? But it is set to be a brilliant weekend of football. Hopefully, as I said, we might get a few scouts, but there should be some great attendances across the grounds. Particularly, as I've said, the likes of Bridgewater United have got 2,500. I think Nottingham Forest is not far off that as well, looking at their ticket sales to host Manchester City. I'll be down at that game. So it should just be a brilliant weekend, and hopefully, as I said, we'll get more than just the 2 guaranteed FA Women's National League sides through into the 5th round. But it's been a long one this week with midweek fixtures to talk about and results to discuss. And as I said, big thanks to Tom as well for taking the time out to chat to me. That will do it for this week's FA Women's National League show. As always, if you've got any suggestions for the show or want to get involved, leave a comment down below or get in touch with me on Twitter at Chris_Gadsby. Thank you very much for watching. Keep supporting your local women's football team, and hopefully you will have a superb weekend, whoever your side is playing. Be back next week, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Goodbye.